So this morning we have the pleasure of welcoming Kim Mosley as our guest speaker. Carol and I met Kim when he was teaching art and photography at the college level in St. Louis. He was attending a calligraphy class, and we struck up a conversation. He indicated interest in Buddhism and started coming to our house regularly. We had weekly meditation sessions at our house at that time. So we got to know him. And then in 2007, Kim retired and moved to Austin, Texas, where to be closer to his daughter and other family. So, but we've kept in touch. In Austin, Kim has become deeply involved in the Appamada Zen Center. There is now a head student and mentor, and I'm so glad that he's able to join us here today and share some of his thoughts. You know, after hearing me prate about suffering, the cause of suffering and the release of suffering and the path for weeks and weeks, it may be a breath of fresh to hear about happiness. So that will be Kim's topic. Kim?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, and
Great.
I'm going to pin your screen here. Add pin, and I'll remove pin. And there we are.
So I think the beginning of this journey certainly was with my parents, who were, especially my mom, who people accused her of being Pollyanna because she always looked at the good side of things. And every week for most of my life, I would call my father and complain about something, and he would kind of dismiss it and let me see the other side. When he was about 2, he grew up in Beirut, and when he was about 2, his father was killed in an accident connected with Lawrence in Arabia and the blowing up of a bridge. He was an engineer, and his mother ran around the house tearing her clothes off, which is actually a Jewish tradition, maybe even from all of the Middle East, called Kriya, where one either tears their clothes off or they cut up a black ribbon when they lose someone who they love dearly. And just to say how important a teacher is, I was talking about and showing the video that you're going to see in a few minutes to one of my teachers. And he made it very clear that we deal in very different ways to pain, to anger, to guilt, to grief. And there's not one solution. But what Buddha really gave us was in the Two-Dart Sutra, or sometimes it's called the Two-Arrow Sutra, was that we have a choice. The arrow sticks into us. We have a choice then how we're going to respond to it. Just like today, we have a choice with the crazy world we live in. How are we going to deal with it? You know, that we don't have to just do what the media is suggesting we do, if they are suggesting a specific thing. So I'll start with this video. And what I need to know is, after I show the video, I'm going to go to some images that I've been making for the last 2 months in preparation for this talk, and also as an investigation of happiness. Oh, and I wanted to say that a lot of times when you hear a talk, it's about the conclusions that someone has met with an investigation. But what I've been more interested in, and what I did with my last talk, which was on the smile of Kashyapa, was really to document my growth, my inquiry, my curiosity about this subject. And that's what we do as we study a koan, is we don't come to a conclusion 60 days later or 60 years later, but it's really a continual path. So let's see if this works. And let me know if you can hear it, but you should be able to.
This poem is titled Delight. Every time I say I am happy, I feel embarrassed, as if I didn't have the right to enjoy my own life. I live in a furnace, I know that. How could I forget the pain I live in? But that's just it. I have lost so much that I appreciate so much more what I still have. To be able to see the blue sky with a cloud being caressed by sunlight brings joy to my soul. Being able to cuddle up with my purring kitty cats. Being able to laugh in a conversation with a friend. Being able to move, walk, and talk, breathe, write, and most of all, create. The point is, I say to myself, you can't feel happy when you're feeling so much pain. You're supposed to feel utterly depressed. You are in so much pain, you should be screaming. But that's just it. I am surrounded and tortured by flames. I am suffering so much already that it would be a pity to not be able to take delight in the beauty of life.
So Starlet, who is here today, is in our Zen writing group that's been going on for 12 years every week. And it actually started at the Missouri Zen Center, where there was a writing group that I loved. And when I came to Austin, we started it here. And now that we're on Zoom, people are coming from all over actually for this, mostly all over the country. And I appreciate it so much. And I asked Starlet if I could record her reading her poem. And this talk is kind of dedicated to one of my teachers who died this week, my painting teachers, Peter Bodner. And I was laughing about it because he always told me to get the words out of my drawings. It bugged him so much. And so I framed one of my pieces when I was in college and gave it to him, and he actually hung it up on his wall, but it had words on it. So I'm going to look at happiness. Can you hear me all right? Thank you.
Yes.
And you can see the picture, right?
Yes, yes.
Oh, good, good. So I'm going to look at happiness. Seems we keep making decisions based on whether that will make us happy. What would make you happy? Can you be happy without hurting? And where that came from is there's a metta chant. And traditionally, the first line of it is, may all beings be happy. And our teacher eliminated that line and substituted it for something else with the idea that there was a particular president, it was before the last one, and she thought that his being happy would hurt someone. So I'm not sure that's true, but anyway, that's where that came from. Can you be happy without hurting? But it's certainly a view that some people have. So if bad pain is a 0, can we hope to get beyond 5 to 10? You know, we often say, oh, I'm okay. Is that enough? Do we need to be hurt to be happy? Vima Lakirti said he was sick because all living beings are sick. Vima Lakirti was a famous lay bodhisattva who intimidated the other bodhisattvas because he was so smart. And they didn't want to visit him when he was sick. And Buddha finally forced a few to. But he said that he was sick just because others are sick. Can you be happy when some are sick?
Kim, sorry to interrupt, but are we supposed to see you scrolling through different artwork?
Yes. Are you not seeing the artwork?
I'm not seeing that. We see the original picture of Starlet.
Oh, okay. And how about now?
Yes, now is good.
Good. Thank you, Ellen. Ellen is from Austin originally, and she's been a Dharma sister to me and so important. And she knows how this sharing pictures is a little goofy. So I'm going to look at happiness. I read this piece to you. Seems we are making decisions based on whether that will make us happy. And if bad pain is a 0, can we hope to get beyond 5 to 10? In fact, they even have you tell your pain from a 0 to 10 also. But when people say, okay, I just wonder, is that enough? Can we have more? I went to buy tuna because it would make me happy to eat. Oh, the reason I misspell things, I mean, other than just being stupid, is I want my English teachers to kind of turn in their graves. And also I like the idea that 2 words can sound the same, can be spelled differently, but sound the same. It would make me happy. And sometimes, like with happy, it would just be a matter of not wanting to use a lot of space up. It would make me happy to eat tuna because I remembered my precept, don't kill, and also felt sad for Mr. Tuna. I should have gone to the tuna cans and said, may all tunas be happy. And this is Sam the tuna before he was canned. And me sitting on the Zafu and crying. So when you have a desire, when are you happy? Is it not until it is fulfilled? And then it is gone. Ha! I heard that after 2 bites, you aren't tasting it. And what about desires that could never be fulfilled? Can they make us happy too? You know, do we think about, as some people do, heaven because it's a pleasant thought and that changes our chemistry? So I had my annual lunch with my daughter. It was really fun. And we went to an Indian restaurant. I don't know if you can tell those are Indian dishes, but you know, there's a different amount of spice, of hotness that they put in them. So that's what the colors are. I asked her if she was happy. Of course she answered. That threw me. I mean, whoever answers that, of course. What? I asked. Well, that was needed in these difficult times. Is the world broken? I asked. No, she said. So this is kind of, I hope the apple doesn't fall far from the tree or something. Quora says, the only thing that makes you unhappy are your own thoughts. Change them. And I think that's kind of what Buddha is telling us also. And something we continually resist. How simple. The first sentence is undeniable, but how easy is it to change a thought? Ever tried to change someone's thought? It is an exercise in futility. You know, and we're engaged, our country's engaged right now in trying to change the thoughts about vaccine and what causes the climate to change. Someone dies every half second, almost. 21 million have a happy birthday every day. So joy and happiness, can we hold both in our palms at the same time? So as you see, I kept asking this question of myself over and over again to see what it would bring up. So I'll be happy if I get my way. We often say that, don't we? So I'll work hard to get my way, doing whatever is needed. What alternatives might exist? Coming from a place of happiness, is getting my way so important? Why? This is kind of an issue for me with competitive sports. You know, is one team going to be unhappy and one team happy because one wins, one loses? I dreamt I had a conversation with a car that had been totaled and then trashed by vandals. Now, this car was in a junkyard that was by the St. Charles River. I don't know if it still exists. I heard the rear view mirror singing, "Happy days are here again." How can that be? I asked. You are practically dead. I can still see others, she whispered. And sometimes we'd see the rear view mirrors hanging just by a couple of wires. Cousin B said the world can't be broken because the warranty hasn't run out yet. This is my positive and funny DNA, you know, as being my cousin. But the earth, isn't fixed, repaired either. Still much work to do if we are going to be happy. She didn't like that thought one bit. She tried to erase it. She tried to strangle it. She tried to hide it under her bed. And then she gave up and she stared at it as if she was looking in a mirror. Soon she blinked and it wandered off on its own. She was so happy. So this is that thought when we're meditating that we want so hard to go away. Or that thing that we did that we're sorry, our ancient twisted karma, and we just don't want we don't want to remember it. And the harder we try, the more we remember it. Would you bring a kid into a world that was just bearable? And I think we've all heard people say that. We know people who don't want to have kids because the world's in such bad shape. They wouldn't want to do that to anyone. Is it possible to be happy and awake? Are we kind to make people happy, or is it just to help them with their pain? And this one character is saying to the other as he's cutting him in half, "Don't worry, be happy." And the other one says, "Right." In Zen, there is a simple way to always get what you want, and that is to want what you get. But how do you do that when you get sickness, old age, and death? And that's what Buddha saw that sent him on his path. Want is not about desire, but it is what is on your altar. Cherish it because it is sacred. And it's sacred because it's a teaching, or cherish it because it is ordinary. You know, we want so hard the world to be different. We were asked about our core belief. And I was just reading, there's this wonderful quote by Dogen that you've probably heard of, where he says to study the self is to forget the self. And I think forgetting the self is like forgetting our core beliefs, the stuff that kind of paralyzes us. That it's a legacy that we bring into this now, this present moment, and then we're unable to deal with things as they are. Mine is that we can end suffering and be happy. This is utterly impossible because the suffering is so great, and yet it isn't those in dire straits that are the only ones that suffer, nor is it only the privileged who are happy. Someone did a study once and found that after you earn $70,000, your happiness starts going downhill. Maybe this is an aspiration, or maybe a realization, or maybe Pollyanna. So I was, according to my teacher, I was mistaken about what really are core beliefs. And she said, oh, that's not a core belief. That's an aspiration that all can be happy. Lojong, which comes from the Theravadan side and is about compassion, suggests transforming bad circumstances into the path. He has these Lojong sayings that are really beautiful. How do you feel when we are on the path? Are we happy? What is the path anyway? Is it more than transformed bad circumstances? Our bad circumstances are only teacher. And here's someone going down the road, and his leg is, as you see, is broken in half. And he sees a sign, bad circums. And then above the fish, it says the word teach. These are teachings. This happened at Flow Valley where I taught, and every spring there would be geese, baby geese. So anyway, here's a story about them. Mother Goose told baby Goose to jump off the roof. And I saw that Sharon Fox is there, and she works at the library there. She hasn't retired. And we would all go outside the library and watch this. Her core belief was to my death, but mom insisted and a flight ensued. Sometimes she would push the baby off. Baby was not happy to jump, but she sure was elated when her wings spread and caught a little draft to soften her landing. What beliefs keep us from jumping off the 100-foot pole? There's another koan about jumping off a 100-foot pole. And we studied it the other night, and I learned two things that I didn't know before. And one was we can't see down into the ground where we're going to land. And some say you have to jump off, but there's no landing. The other thing is, according to Guo Gu, who's a wonderful writer and priest in Gainesville, Florida, who wrote this book that we're reading, jumping off the 100-foot pole isn't like it for getting to awareness. It's just the beginning. as difficult as it is. I've never jumped off a 100-foot pole, but maybe some people here have. Used paper goes in one place and used plastic bags in another. In trying to separate the paper stapled to the plastic and trying to save the hospitality of the earth for creatures, a staple stuck in my finger and drew blood. I said, to hell with this being a goody two-shoes. I threw it all in the trash. Save the earth? No way if I'm going to be spewing blood. I'm not happy. And then I'm spewing blood into a little dish, which is, I think my wife would appreciate that, you know, instead of all over. And it says what's needed. And this is planet Earth trying to be saved. Are you feeling peaceful, joyous, or happy? Today in Zazen, I felt peaceful until I remembered that I would soon be seeing an old friend. Then I was happy. Resting there, I felt joy that he was still in this world. I don't think I maintained the peacefulness in this elated state, nor did I lose it. I was just happy and joyous. And I think what we all do when we're sitting is we become aware of how we're feeling. And I was interested that I couldn't simultaneously feel peaceful and happy, but nor did the peacefulness vanish. In a way, I felt guilty when I don't stick to Buddhism because that is my self-assigned focus. Joko Beck thought that the experience of the present moment is enlightenment. What more could there be? And I pressure cooked acorn squash, and it was almost soup. So once again, I fail at actualizing my intention. Now I need to figure out how to make it the soup it almost is. And then I went to get a haircut, and I told the hairdresser just to do it the way she wanted. And then my wife said, oh, they cut it all off and so on. So why is the sun shining? Nothing is turning out how I want it to be. And this is our frustration, isn't it? We live in a world hell-bent on conclusions. Who did it? I'm more interested in the process of what Blake described as persisting in our folly. Luckily, I have sisters and brothers and teachers who tell me I'm heading into a ditch. Still, despite their admonitions, I mostly live happily in a muddy ditch, which is one reason I love pigs. I think it's kind of my rebelling. Though my parents didn't practice Judaism, we were aware that some people don't eat pigs. And so I started feeling sorry for the pigs being kind of second-class animals. I think imagination is critical to happiness. We imagine our future like the Jews imagined for 40 years a land of milk and honey. And then when they got there, they focused on the Masonic age. There's always a place to imagine all being free, all delusions ending, all Dharma gates being entered, and Buddha's way being embodied. We can smile because it isn't if, but when. And these guys are tongue-tied. In Aesop, the fox reframes his failure to get the grapes to, I bet they are sour. Is that what we do to alleviate the second dart, the pain we feel when we are hurt? Is this simply a parlor trick? Is happiness just a point of view available to all? There's something called spiritual bypassing, which is similar to reframing for when you just reframe for benefit. You know, a kid skins his knee and you say, oh, it's okay. Tomorrow you won't even feel it. That's in a sense reframing or seeing things in a different way. And there's a healthy aspect to it and unhealthy. And you'll have to tell me the difference. Mensa, and that's what I call my wife because she's always figuring stuff out, likes good coffee, Tom Hanks likes a fancy Airstream when traveling. And he actually put a chimney on the Airstream. Is happiness conditional on the state of the material world? Is there ever enough? And here's Tom Hanks with Sleepless on Earth and his Airstream. There are delusions that get me in trouble, an imagination that creates magic. Sometimes it is hard to tell the difference. Happiness comes from imagination. We are able to see a situation from multiple vantage points and make lemonade from lemons. And the 5 cents was particularly meaningful to me because in the 50s, I visited my grandfather's mattress company, and he had a machine where he sold Coke, bottles of Coke, to his workers for a nickel apiece. That was the price of a bottle of Coke. We love our kids and we want them to have a good life where things go as they want them to go. Buddha was given everything one could desire. The hope was he would become a king and never have to experience the unpleasant side of life. And that was the attempt of my parents. We never went to a funeral, and they didn't want me to see anything but that would keep me away from my schoolwork. They said, that's your responsibility. My dad was the one who took the garbage out because my mom thought that would take me away from my schoolwork. Then he came upon sickness, old age, and death, and became curious about the suffering he was never supposed to see. So I represented sickness, old age, and death here. The 102.5, you think that's temperature, but really it's the age of my father-in-law who's living in central Illinois. We just went to visit him. And COVID, the figure, you know about that, and this person's on a respirator. And then DOA is dead on arrival. So that's our sickness, old age, and death that wakes us up. My son said, I like to spell son like that because he's also like gives so much light to my life. My son said I was all wrong about happiness because sadness was so useful. I said, I agreed. He said, we agreed to disagree. I disagreed. And sometimes we're disagreeing when we're agreeing and vice versa. When your prayers are answered, cannot that be called happiness? And this is from a movie I saw, Memoirs of a Geisha. What are prayers to be answered? May this heart be open. May this mind be boundless. May the body be at ease. May all beings awaken. Those are prayers that are answerable for all beings. Only one person can win the $185 million lottery. And here too, I tried to represent the open heart, the boundless mind, the body at ease. Ellen, who is here, does a great job doing our Wednesday night meditation and another Wednesday meditation where on loving kindness. Happiness is easy when you are getting what you want. And depending on how fickle you are, that can be fairly often. But it also creates dukkha, like a wheel out of balance. No sooner are you smiling because the AC came back on, then you start worrying that your dinner will be a flop or whatever. Is that how we want to live? Bump, bump, bump. So this is a classic kind of metaphor for dukkha or suffering, is a wheel out of balance. Happiness for me is thinking about happiness. That makes me happy. And so this is kind of a dumb thing. I realized that it's actually, for me, the process of thinking about happiness or thinking about maybe my next subject is going to be forgiveness. But whatever it is, the thinking about it is more interesting to me than the thing itself. What makes you happy? The secret to happiness is to listen. It connects you to your heart. And I think that's really what we're doing when we're sitting, is we're listening. We're quieting down so we can listen, so we can see what's really going on. It connects you to another. It creates compassion when you see what others are facing. Talking can be just fidgeting. Listening is being still, so still the squirrel believes you are a tree. So that's my challenge, is the squirrel not to see me. We have very thick tinted windows in our sunroom, so we can watch the squirrel and they can't see us, but it would be nice to be outside and have the same experience. So this is pretty much how the drawings look when I'm finished with them, before I put them in Photoshop and do all that other stuff. Star athlete, now 50 years later, couldn't walk because his foot won't heal. And this has been going on for months, if not a year. I love how every time he gives a health update, he ends with something he's looking forward to: a movie, a book, time with his wife or son. That's how he survives and thrives. I don't know whether it's for us or for himself that at the end of the update, he has these positive thoughts. And so I put "The Sun Also Shines," which is kind of a play on the book. And then baseball was his deal. And so there's a Louisville Slugger. And if you know about Louisville, it's pronounced Louisville. She said, "This too will pass. And it is a learning experience." She said they were trite. She opted for compassion while I opt for perspective. I asked myself, how can I alter this meal of life so it makes a lovely dinner? That's what I'm aiming for. Is that trite? So that again is a thing of, are these just spiritual bypassing, or is it something more real? Going all the way has been on my mind. It is just not turning toward the difficulty of pain and suffering, but it is fully embracing difficulties as a best friend. And that's too, getting away from this idea of it's okay. It is said in Buddhism that being born in the human realm is of great advantage because one can become liberated from dukkha, unease. This is not just feeling okay, but jumping for joy. The good stuff in life is hard to achieve if you try. We want love and happiness and even to be liked by others, but good luck if you make these aspirations into things you can get by trying. They are byproducts when you care for things. They are available when you find your true home, which Thich Nhat Hanh had a book about, the true home. We all see this in ourselves and others, I think, when we're trying for things that actually are byproducts. Wildfire smoke reaches North Pole. Taliban captures 30 more capitals. It's now 30 or close to it. My family has died. Can I still jump for joy? I looked at a picture of a carnation and saw such exuberance, despite that it was dead. If it can celebrate life, why can't we? When have you been happy? Was it when you did well? Was it when you connected to another human being? Was it when your child was born or when she took her first step? What did you feel? What really made you happy? Are you happy when you remember this event? And here's my son or daughter taking their first steps. And now we'll have a discussion. I'd like to hear about what made you happy, what makes you happy. And so if I can, here we go.